can't stand these cunts.
Shackleton tells his crew that they will head for the nearest supply depot, left behind years earlier on Pollitt Island, 346 miles away.
14 miles away.
Years earlier on Pollitt Island, 346 miles away. Within a few days, the Endurance loses her final struggle. Attempt to march, but the terrain is impassable. Everywhere they turn, the ice blocks their way.
I would have thought if anybody had to take a bet on it, I would have said they were probably 10, 20 to 1 against bringing them back alive. I mean, after all, there they were, sitting in the middle of the Weddell Sea, in the middle of the pack ice, miles from land.
To contemplate what the likelihood of their getting back alive were.
It sounds like Richard Dawkins.
I would almost have said they were negligible.
For the next 6 months, the crew camps on unpredictable and hazardous ice floes. At the beginning, morale stays high. Shackleton's hopes are pinned on 3 small boats in which he plans to set sail when the pack opens. But if the Weddell Sea had crushed the Endurance, what could it do to these fragile craft? In the meantime, they drift helplessly with the pack.
They were moving. They were on a moving ice floe, of course. And I suppose Shackleton would have been... And I suppose Shackleton would have been very, very concerned with keeping it from the men, how desperate their situation was.
In time, the supplies become depleted. Men hunt whatever game they can find, but food becomes an obsession. February 1916.
The food is pretty well all meat. Seal steaks, stewed seal, penguin steak, stewed penguin, penguin liver. The latter being very good indeed. The cocoa has been finished for some time.
Ah, someone who thinks they're smarter than the rest. How adorable.
Penguin liver.
Are you sure you want to skip it?
Indeed. The cocoa
All right,
has been finished
let's
for some
see
time.
how long
And
you
the tea
last.
is very nearly
Good
done.
luck.
Even the mild-tempered ship's doctor, James Macklin, is showing the strain. At such times, he wrote his diary in code.
I think the boss was a bit improvident not getting all the food in whilst the going was good.
James Macklin is showing the strain. At such times, he wrote his diary in code.
I think the boss was a bit improvident not getting all the food in whilst the going was good. It was worth the risk.
As the months pass, game becomes scarce. Lunch is 1 biscuit, and 3 lumps of sugar are issued each day. On March 30th, Shackleton orders the men to shoot the surviving dogs. Now, they can eat. They come tantalizingly close to Pollitt Island, but in the end they drift helplessly past it and its vital supply depot. They have been marooned for 13 months. Yet Shackleton somehow manages to keep his men from sinking into what could become fatal despair.
People told me that 50 times a day, people said, "What do we do now, boss? Okay, boss?" He was known as the boss. And I think they literally had a pattern of activity that he controlled. And when they got to the end of a task, they turned to him, "What do we do now, boss?"
The boss has to plan a new course of action after their near miss with Pollitt Island.
70.
He will aim for Elephant Island instead, 100 miles to the north. The next decision on the morning of April 9th is made for him.
At 11 a.m., our floe suddenly split right across under the boats. We rushed our gear onto the larger of the two pieces. Our home was being shattered under our feet.
They take to the boats, and in a roaring sea begin a dash for Elephant Island. For the next 7 days, they fight a heroic battle. The storms are enormous. They go days without sleep. Thirst becomes overwhelming, and their mouths and tongues are so swollen they cannot swallow food. Leading them through 17 hours of darkness each day is Frank Worsley, Shackleton's brilliant navigator.
The temperature was 20 degrees below freezing point. Greenstreet's right foot had got badly frostbitten, but Lees restored it by holding it in his sweater against his stomach. My eyes began to fail me. I could not see or judge distance properly, and found myself falling asleep at the tiller.
Yet Worsley's uncanny navigation brings the three battered craft to the bleak shores of Elephant Island. The men have not touched solid ground in more than 16 months. For the first time in 3 days, they have a meal and a hot drink. Solid ground in more than 16 months. For the first time in 3 days, they have a meal and a hot drink. Uninhabited.
You fucker.
Within 16 months. For the first time in 3 days, they have a meal and a hot drink. Uninhabited Elephant Island is a desolate and dangerous place. They have one forlorn hope, the whaling station on South Georgia Island, 800 miles to the northeast. Shackleton decides to attempt the almost suicidal journey. The night before he leaves, he writes a note to Frank Wild.
Oh, you know what? Oh.
April the 23rd, 1916, Elephant Island. Dear Sir, in the event of my not surviving the boat journey to South Georgia, you will do your best for the rescue of the party. You are in full command from the time the boat leaves this island. You can convey my love to my people and say I tried my best. Yours sincerely, E.H. Shackleton.
The next morning, the 22 men who will be left behind gather on shore. The optimists
You fucking
expect the boss
idiots.
back in a few weeks.
Dumb cunts. Click edit, you sack of
Shackleton
shit.
and 5 other men face the world's most vicious sea in a 23-foot open boat. Elephant Island, April 24th, 1916.
We watched them until they were out of sight.
April 24th, 1916.
We watched them until they were out of sight, which was not long, for such a tiny boat was soon lost to sight on the great heaving ocean. As she dipped into the trough of each wave, she disappeared completely, sailing on.
3 days out, their craft is hit by a powerful gale. Enormous waves, 50 or more feet high, batter them relentlessly as they struggle in a last desperate effort to reach help.
And these men were in this tiny 23-foot boat for 16 days altogether, being tossed around with these wet reindeer clothes and reindeer sleeping bags chafing them, and great wet rocks of ballast bumping against them in huge waves. I mean, they were in storm conditions, gale conditions, virtually for the entire time of the crossing. And I think Worsley only had one chance to take a sighting from the sun to work out their position, and the rest was done entirely on dead reckoning.
On May 8th, against all odds, the men sight the South Georgia coast. They spend nearly 2 days trying to make a landing on the island's treacherous shores.
And it is the most wild coast with huge glaciers flowing down into the sea. And I think it was just as they finally managed to get through some rocks into this tiny little bay and drag the boat ashore, stumbling and slithering on the wet rocks and seaweed, that the main pin holding the rudder fell out just at that moment as they landed. Incredible fortune that it had lasted till then.
Fate compels them to land on the side of the island opposite the whaling station, which lies over an interior of glaciers and mountains that no human being has ever crossed.
That you're aware of.
Terribly weakened, Shackleton is called on to lead yet another heroic effort. He has a bit of rope,
Goddamn
a
niggers.
carpenter's axe, and some screws
Like, comment,
which the
subscribe.
men twist into the bottom of their shoes. Leaving behind the 3 men who are too ill to make the trip, Shackleton sets off with Frank Worsley and Tom Green.
Faggots.
Shackleton